Hey guys, meteorologist Lindsey Slater here. So we do have some more rain in the forecast. At this point, as of 9:05 a.m. when I'm recording this, there are no flood watches warnings in effect. There are some flood warnings near the Fox River in Waukesha, but there's no like flash flood warnings, anything like that as of right now. Now that may change as we go throughout the day because I'm tracking these rounds of rain. Now, as you can see, the latest WPC forecast does highlight us having about, I would say, 1 to 3 inches of heavy rainfall. You can see, actually, if I move over my web camera, you can see it better. There you go. You can see over on the left part of the screen there that does highlight us having that potential of all of that rain. Now, we do have some areas that I think will get 1 to 3 inches of locally heavy rainfall. There could be some locally higher amounts, but overall, this is not the last storm. And I want to make that very, very clear. The last storm had a lot of low-level jet support, a lot of unlimited moisture basically coming in from the south and west. And that really aided in those storms just constantly popping up. And not only popping up, but just having so much moisture to drop back down on the same areas. That's what makes this one so incredibly different. So I want to make that very clear. So as far as any kind of severe weather potential, there is a little bit of a tornadic potential. I personally don't see it here. I see it more like, I would say, areas in Wausau, Toma, maybe Oshkosh. That's where I would expect it. But again, Storm Prediction Center, they're kind of highlighting a little bit of it happening closer to Toma, Portage. It does include much of southeast Wisconsin. It's a 2% risk. But with that being said, I do anticipate our threats to mainly be a hail threat and a heavy rain threat. You can see going into Sunday, that threat really drops off and it's just rain. We could see some stronger storms again on Monday. So that's coming in from the Storm Prediction Center. So let's talk about, again, we don't have any flood warnings in effect except for that one flood warning over the Fox River in New Munster. There's also some watches in effect near the Fox River in New Munster. The one in Waukesha right there is a flood warning in Waukesha County. I've been monitoring all of these basically all of these rivers and streams because they exceeded expectations so much during the last system. A lot of heat as well. The heat advisories that are in effect across the country are pretty astronomical, and that really extends all the way down through the country. So here are the current looks at the river gauges and systems. The green basically means that you are in no flood stages, no action stage, no minor stage. The yellow is action, then you go to minor. So action stage means be prepared. Minor flood stage means that you need to be aware of that we have some minor flooding going on, and you're seeing the boxes, you're seeing the circles. I realize that's very, very confusing, and I want to highlight, I'm going to scoot myself over again. You see on the right hand part of the screen, the observation are the circles, the forecast are the squares. Again, tough to understand, but let me go ahead and just pick one right now. This is the Fox River. Basically, that is in Waukesha. It's been a nice steady decline, and it's expected to do so depending on how much rain we get. Everything else is looking really good. Looking at the Fox River, New Munster, this is the one that has the flood watch because it still hasn't hit its peak. We still do not have this flood that has reached its peak from the last amount of rain. You see that uptick right there. And then it just kept going up and up and up. There's a lot of tributaries that go into the Fox River. So this could really explain why we're still seeing rises downstream. And that's near New Munster. That is expected, it looks like, to go minor flood stage Tuesday. So I would expect it's in action stage. It's expected to go into minor as we head into Tuesday. So let's look at some of the weather models. As you guys know, I like to do. We're going to look at the H trip. I don't have a lot of confidence in these models because, as I've mentioned before, they do not handle stationary boundaries and MCSs, mesoscale convective systems. They do not handle these very well. So this is the 12Z. This is the very latest one that has come out. And you can see I expect a lot of storms to stay to the north through the day. I'm really banking on that. However, there could be a point in time where these get a southern trajectory and they start moving south. That is what we're going to be watching. This could be, it almost acts like a pneumonia front, but it's not. It's just almost like a backdoor cold front. It comes in from the north and pushes south. And it really pushes a pretty big line here that could indicate some damaging wind gusts. That's what I would be more concerned with. Again, weather models do not handle this very well. Let's look at the rapid resolution model, which has a similar scenario, but it's a little different. As you can see, as I go back and forth, it doesn't get to Fond du Lac County until almost 9 o'clock tonight, or 7, 8, 9, 10. So we don't get a lot of activity until almost 10 o'clock at night. The NAM, This one, 12Z, is favoring the H trip a little bit more, but it comes through after about 7 o'clock as well. So we might be looking at this activity coming a little bit later on in the evening hours. We do have a lot of energy in this system, and there's a lot of energy. Look at that big old bullseye of high cape values. This is 4100 cape. That's a lot of energy. 2800 cape, and then a little bit less further to the north. But look at that. I mean, just tons and tons of cape. So this is why the Storm Prediction Center has that tornadic threat over here more, because of the time of day. Later on, I was looking at a threat up here because of what's going on up there. If we look at the shear values, which indicate rotation in the atmosphere, the helicity values were kind of bullseyed over here, which is why I thought we had a better tornadic chance, maybe like Fond du Lac and Oshkosh as well. These would be low-level tornadoes, by the way. They wouldn't be these big guys. They'd be ones embedded into thunderstorms. But I don't want you to think that that's the biggest threat. The biggest threat, hands down, is going to be the amount of rain we get. And we have a lot of rain, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. There is a lot of it. We are seeing PWatt values, which is precipitable water, in the 1 to almost 2 inch range leading up to this event. I mean, there's a lot of moisture. This really, I think, is overdone. Almost 3 inches there. So we could see, I think this is more of a heavy rain. I think it is more of a potential more flooding, but I think there's a lot more of that flooding to the north. It just depends on what model you look at. I think we're in the 1 to 3 inch range with some locally higher amounts, like the H strip is showing here. We got a 3.2 there. We got I think I saw like a 3.5 or a 3.76 up there. So while this is nothing like the last system when it comes to the amount of moisture that's available, it's not transporting that moisture as well. And that's a key player when it comes to these types of systems. I feel like moisture transport is not on here. Let me see. Theta E. I mean, no, it's pushing it away. So I don't see a lot of that. Well, that's for Sunday. Hang on. There's a little bit. Yeah, there's some pushing in, but whether or not that comes at the same time is going to be a pretty big gamble. So yes, we are watching. I think the biggest takeaways I want you guys to know is that yes, we have 1 to 3 inches of rain possible. Yes, we could see more flooding. It doesn't take a lot of moisture or a lot of rain to induce more flash flooding, and that is because the ground is very saturated. If we do in fact get some of these storms that get a little spicy, with that potential of us having with the potential of us having, you know, the 1 to 3 inches of rain, maybe we get some of the damaging wind gusts that could easily topple down some trees because the ground is very saturated. I would say this is likely happening after, I would say 7 to 10 would be the biggest opportunity for severe weather. Everything else is going to be kind of erring on the side of flooding. I also want to bring up a little bit about Hurricane Erin. As you can see, holy cow, this thing went from a Cat 1 to a Cat 4 like that. Very warm ocean waters. Yeah, that's what climate change does. And it really just supercharges these systems. Good news is it's curving away from the US. So it is a high end Cat 4 right now. The 7 a.m. Observation was 145-mile-an-hour wind. So I'm looking at it right now, looking to maintain that. Might get to 155 and then going back down to about 145 by Sunday. So really hoping it stays off coast, which it looks like it will. A lot of because of the boundary that we have. So if you guys have any questions, as always, just message me. And you can send me an email, weather@wisn.com. You can always message me on social media or in the comments below. I appreciate you guys. If you have any questions or if you have something you want to comment on, just make sure that your phones are charged this evening, as I am looking at rain overnight. And also make sure your weather radios are turned on because, again, we could see more of those flash flood alerts that you need to be awake for.